Hello everybody, I'm Steve and welcome to Green Side Up. Today I'm harvesting and I've got two different types of beans and two different types of peas, and I want to harvest as much as possible. I'm going to leave some on the plants to dry, but I say a couple of years ago we've got an incredible problem here. We've got a big rodent problem, mice mostly, and they will take and strip these from the plants if they're left for too long. And a few years ago I had a whole crop of Bluahilde beans stolen that way, so I'm a little bit reticent to do it, to leave them to dry, but I'm gonna try again with some of these, and I'll describe that as we go through this harvesting this morning. But these are the butter beans that John sent me, and they're an incredible plant. They've grown, I think, about 9 foot tall, and they would grow bigger if I got them planted earlier in the season. I messed that up, that was my fault. But I'm going to strip as many of these off as I can today, and start storing them for winter use. Yeah, so these are the butter beans. I don't know what the variety is. I've got to say, they were sent to me. Maybe John can pop into the comments and let us know what variety they are. That would be very helpful. I know a few people are interested in growing these next year. I certainly am anyway. I want to do a full stand of them next year, proper row, because they're just brilliant. I don't know why, but I've never really grown them before, but I have now, and I've seen the light, so to speak. There just seems to be a never-ending amount of them on the plants, so we've had a very good harvest off them already. Yeah, so if you could let us know the variety, John, that would be very helpful. So this is what I've just picked, and there's a tremendous amount here. Now, admittedly, a lot of these pods aren't fully formed and fully full, to be honest, but they've got beans in, and any that have a swelling on them I've picked, because I don't want to lose them and I want some sort of a crop. But there's still tons on that plant, on those plants there. I think there must be half a dozen plants there, no more than that really, or around that number. There's still lots of young, immature beans about halfway up the plants, and up near the top there's lots of really small beans there, and there's a ton of flower. The bees are still incredibly interested in it. And I've just noticed when I was round the other side of them picking what few I could see there, that where the plants reach the top up to about the 9 foot mark, they've then bent over at the other side and they're trailing down. And they're trailing down a good 3 foot, so that's like a 12 foot plant. So as I said in an earlier video, the multi-frame for me next year is the way to go to grow these. You can Google that and have a look at that, and it's a fantastic way. And if you get it in the right position, you know, in proper sunlight, it will really do you proud and makes picking so much easier. So have a look at that, the multi-frame, and right, we'll move on to the next bean then. Really pleased with that, that's stunning. So this next line of peas, next row, there's about 8 foot long there, and these are probably 7 or 8 foot tall. I don't see as yet, oh yeah, there's some hanging down, so they will go beyond 8 foot. And these are them, they're like a purple bean. They sort of almost look like a runner bean. They're flat, they're knobbly where the bean is inside, whereas you'd expect a French bean to be sort of cylindrical and very thin. But what I do with these is you got to pick the seam side, where the seams sort of come in together, not where they round over to a point, but break the end of that, and you can pull the stringy bit off them. And the older these beans are, the more of that stringy bit there is. That'll be perfectly fine to eat now, shouldn't be any stringiness, and no there isn't. So that's the way to prepare them. I'll try and get a bit closer and show you another one, a bit closer to the camera. So here's the bean. You can see there's sort of a bluntish side, and then there's like a seam side on the other, where it sort of goes into a valley. It sort of goes in You can actually run your fingernail down it, it's that pronounced, whereas you can't on the other side. And you hold it and break it, and then just gently pull, and you'll pull that stringiness out of it. And again, on the other end, break it and just pull it off. And that's the stringiness gone from that bean. And it was, well, most of it. Always the way, isn't it? But that just makes them more edible. The other thing, of course, is to pick them when they're younger, which is one harvest, 2 harvests I've already done. This is the 3rd, and I'm going to take as many off today as I can. So I'm literally just pulling off a complete bunch. And it's worth noting that the beans I just pulled off the backside that I missed, those bigger ones will be stringy, and those smaller ones won't be. So these, this year, these beans have been incredibly good. They've been sweeter than I remember. I didn't grow them last year. For some reason, I didn't get the seeds in time, and then my supplier had run out, where I normally get them from. So I didn't grow them last year, but they seem to be a sweeter tasting bean to me than they have been previously. I've not grown them for that long, 7 or 8 years, missing last year. But they're a very nice tasting sweet bean, lovely to have on the plate. And as you can see, it's incredibly prolific. I mean, I've already picked 2 meals and I haven't moved anywhere. I think I'll probably fill this truck easily, I would say, from this picking. So what I'll do is, oh yeah, one more thing worth mentioning. When you boil or cook these up, they turn green. So that purple colour goes. But they look really decorative on the plot, and look at those flowers. They're fabulous. Anyway, I'll pick the rest of these and show you what I've picked later. Now, this is quite ridiculous. This trug is, well, it's up to the level of the edges, and I haven't moved from this spot yet. All I've been doing is reaching in, and there are still tons of beans on here. It's just a phenomenal crop. I reckon I'm only going to get halfway down this road today and have this overflowing. Anyway, I'll carry on. I just thought you should see this. All just stood in one spot and picked this lot. Ridiculous. Ridiculously good. So I'm about 3 foot along this row, and I've absolutely rammed this truck. Could put more on, but I think that'll do for now, because I can go home, prepare them and freeze them, you know, store them, get them stored away. So about 3 foot along that row, 3 or 4 foot, probably getting on for halfway. So I've got that and a bit more to come yet off this, which is quite phenomenal really, for a French bean harvest, that is. You know, it's I'm very pleased with that. Anyway, we'll move on. Gosh. Now, at the other end of this cane structure are the Carlin Peas that Pauline very kindly sent me. And she sent me a little baggie of a few seeds that's growing this lot of peas here. And she also sent me a brief history of the Carlin pea and a few recipes on how to use them. Now, sort of folklore has it that a couple of 100 years ago, and if you look, you can look this up and find it out for yourself, but a couple of 100 years ago, Newcastle was under siege by the Scots, and they were starting to starve, and apparently a French ship managed to get into port there full of these Carlin peas and saved the city, because everyone started eating them and managed to survive the siege. And because of that, they've become a bit of a tradition in the northeast and in the north in general. So I was interested to grow them from that angle, because they're a heritage or heirloom variety. And they were also called as pigeon peas, black or grey badgers, can't remember the other names, but Carlin peas, maple peas was another name for them. And they were touted as the medieval mushy pea. So you let them dry and and then you cook them from there. They take a long time to cook, and there are recipes available for them. So you can see that the green colour is going from these plants. They are now going over officially, and I've got these nice full pods. They're quite small, but these are now also losing their colour as well. And let's just pull one open, pod one. Actually, surprisingly, a decent sized pea inside there. I mean, they'll obviously dry smaller, but yeah, they're bigger than I thought they'd be in those small pods. So there we go. I'm going to pick as many as I can now off here. It's actually still producing. There's flowers higher up the plant and behind, and still growing more peas. So we'll see if we can get 2 harvests off this. I would think the one will be enough. I'm only actually growing them to try this year. I will save some peas to grow next year if we really enjoy them. Because once I've tried the traditional way of cooking them, I'll try my own ways. Being an ex-chef and all that, you know, you always want to do things your own way, put your own spin on things. So hopefully at some stage I'll report back on that. And now I've just mentioned cooking, and I know many people are going to shout up and say, when are you going to do some cooking, Steve? Look, I would love to do some cooking. I enjoy cooking. I was, well, I still am, a fully trained chef and a fully trained chef, and I've worked in the trade for many years. But right now, I'm still getting this allotment plot to where I want it to be, and I know what I'm like. If I start off with a bench making a stir fry or a salad or something, next time I want to do something more, and that will just start taking the time and detracting away from the plot and where I want to be with this. And until I've got this plot to a point where I'm happy, I won't be doing any cooking, unfortunately. I say I'd love to do it, I really would, because there's lots to show and lots to learn, little tricks that will help. So the best I've got for now is just to tell you anything I think is relevant and might help you out into cooking something nice. Anyway, back to the peas. I'll carry on picking these. But I'm sorry to those people I've disappointed with that. Eventually I will, but for now, maybe for all of next year, I'm sorry I won't be doing it. So I've had a good pick over these Carlin peas, and you can see I've got a really good big tray full of them there, so there'll be enough to try the peas to see if we like them and to grow them again next year, I should think. Varying degrees of dryness. I mean, these are ready to go in a jar, these ones, and some of these just need a bit more drying, so they'll get spread out on a kitchen worktop at home and dried out and stored properly. So yeah, I'm pleased with them. There are quite a few left on here. The ones I've left, they're either still immature, like that one and that one. No, that one's all right. Or the mice have already got to them and they're empty of the peas. They tend to chew the end off and then put the nose in and grab the peas out, the little buggers. But yeah, there's a load of immature peas here, so we'll just leave them and see how they get on. So far we've done 2 beans. We've done the butter beans first, and then the Bluahilde purple podded bean. We've done those 2. We've just done the Carlin peas, and this is the second pea. This is the Oregon sugar snap pea, and it is a Mange Tout. And you basically pick them when they're really small and immature, and they're completely thin, and they're delicious. Now, over the course of the last couple of weeks, there's lots to eat on here as a Mange Tout, and I'm going to pick every single pea I can find on this plant, regardless of its size. Because it's still full of flowers, and we might get a second flush if it's not putting the energy into what's already there. Then it might go mad and give me a second flush of Mange Tout, which it might not do if I don't pick them all. Some of them have gone over, and some of them I know over on the other side there are of a size where I can save them for peas for next year, so I'm saving the seeds. So I'll pick the lot, take them home, sort through them, we'll eat what we can, save what we can, and expect a second cropping off this at some stage. So there we go, Oregon sugar pod Mange Tout pea. Let's get cracking. So I've had a nice little harvest off that. That's the Oregon sugar snap peas, the Mange Tout. There's a few big ones in there that I'll save for seed, and I've taken them all off, or most of them off, above a harvestable size, so the smaller ones will grow on and these flowers hopefully will produce as well. You can't get all of them in when it's a pea harvest. It's next to nigh impossible to get them all off, but it's a harvest nonetheless. And that's the second pea of the day. We've done the Carlin Peas and now the Oregon sugar snap. So here we go, is the product of the work this morning. These are the Bluahilde purple podded bean, and these turn green when you cook them. I've shown you how to take the stringiness out of beans there by making sure you've got the indented side facing you, and you pull the end off and you'll take that away. So that's how you get rid of that. I've got the butter beans over there, which should be a much better crop if I'd planted them a much earlier and looked after them. I did plant some earlier, but I killed them. So John sent me a second lot of seed. John, if you can, could you let us know in the comments, or can you email me and let me know what variety that was, so that everyone can be informed. I've got the Carlin peas that Pauline sent me, very kindly sent me. These are the heritage peas, and they're of well, they're billed as the medieval mushy pea. So we've got those, and we've got a smallish harvest there. There's a couple of meals worth of Mange Tout in there, picked off to allow those to continue, all because there's tons of flour on it, allow them to continue to harvest, and we'll hopefully get some more off that in the coming weeks. So that's the Oregon sugar snap peas. That's half of the harvest on the beans. There might be a few more of the butter beans, but I might just leave them on the plants and see if I can just get them out for seed for next year. Now, all those plants, they're all of the legume family, and one more thing that they can do for you, they all fix nitrogen from the atmosphere, from the air, and they fix that around the roots. So when you're taking these plants out, when you finish with them for the year, just snip them off at ground level, compost all the foliage and the stalks, but leave the roots in the ground, because that nitrogen will stay in that ground and it'll become accessible to whatever needs it in there, future crops for instance. So don't waste that, just leave them all in the ground. As they rot, they'll leave little channels behind in the soil where the roots were, and that's a passageway for all the organisms in your soil to get around as well. So it's a good way all round to help condition your soil. So don't waste those roots, don't pull them out and throw the roots on the compost heap. You'll still get the benefit of the nitrogen to a degree in your compost heap, but a lot of that gets washed away. Leave them in the ground, just snip your plants off at ground level. But that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed that, hope you got something from it. Don't forget the multi-frame for growing those beans up if you decide to grow them next year. I'm expecting a lot of people to grow them next year on YouTube, but we'll see. I've got my predictive head on. But anyway, that's it. Look after yourselves, everyone. Please stay safe, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Ta-ra now. Oh, look at that lot.